last workshop, maybe. There was a meeting that I missed recently, and this is what I need, cooperation with, especially from the citizenry. I think there were some misunderstandings or misconceptions about what the Heroin Task Force does. The Heroin Task Force does not hold public meetings. This is a group of people that are undercover law enforcement agents, and they work the heroin problem from a bit of a different angle. But what I will not do, ever, is I will not come into a public meeting. I will not divulge information. I will not share details, discuss tactics or methods. I will not set deadlines or timelines for these investigators, because some of these investigations take weeks or months. Now, there's a variety of things that we have done and are going to continue to do up in the High Point area. And other than what was discussed at the last trustee meeting, I haven't heard a word from anyone from High Point. We're doing some different things. I've moved a couple of people around, guys that some of these officers that tend to be a little more proactive. Have them spending more time in High Point. I've got resources outside of District 3, making their presence known in High Point. The traffic cars are running through there during the daytime. Some other folks are running through there during the nighttime. We have a sergeant on night shift, and when staffing things allow, he's doing some plainclothes work up there. 2 weekends ago, weekend before last, we literally stopped every car that came through High Point. And now, of course, I'm fielding the complaints of we're harassing folks. So, and word gets out pretty quickly on that weekend. Within an hour or two of us, it was out on social media that the cops were harassing everyone in High Point, which we were making lawful traffic stops and things of that nature. It's just, so they know we're there. We're doing what we can when and where we can, but in terms of the investigations, I'm going to be very tight-lipped. One of the things about the Heroin Task Force that people don't understand is they're going to work to not only establish drug charges against an individual or people. If there is an overdose death and they can establish the links in that chain, if they can find the dealer and the product, and if they can establish that clear chain, they're going to pursue manslaughter charges. Instead of putting someone away on a drug charge for 4 or 5 or 6 years, they're going to pursue people and try to put people away on manslaughter charges for 20 plus years. So, as I stated a moment ago, they work this problem from a bit of a different angle. There's one more thing I'd like to add that I don't think the general public understands. The heroin epidemic, the laws have changed tremendously. Heroin has been decriminalized. It has been effective decriminalized. We can't arrest our way out of the problem, even if it wasn't. If these 2 men were using heroin and he overdosed, we cannot come to the scene if police and fire, sorry, you're sitting closest. Chief and I came to the scene and he was revived. I cannot arrest him. Now, years ago, there was a charge called drug abuse, and I think it's still on the books. And if someone was using illicit drugs, any illegal drug, and we have evidence of that drug use and drug impairment, we would arrest the person. It was a misdemeanor. Oftentimes there was paraphernalia, so there would be a companion charge. And in the 90s and 2000s, drug abuse, drug paraphernalia, we locked people up by the dozens using those charges. The legislatures, the courts, the lawmakers have changed the game on heroin. So if Mike is a person who is overdosed, I can't arrest him. Not even on a possession charge. I would need 1 gram of heroin or more to arrest him. Which it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. And heroin users use the drug immediately. It's not like somebody who buys a quantity of marijuana and they use or smoke a little marijuana and they keep the rest in their stash. Heroin is different. They use the drug right now because they want the fix, they want the high. If this gentleman was with him, maybe he helped him buy the drug, or maybe they were using the drugs together, or what have you, and he overdoses, and he calls 911. He has immunity, even though it's entirely possible that he has helped or been a party to this whole thing. What was happening when the heroin epidemic hit, and it was ramping up, overdose deaths were ramping up, and things of that nature. So people, like in his position, weren't calling 911 for fear of arrest. So imagine what that does to law enforcement. We have an overdose in High Point, and it's just not High Point, it's just not trailer parks, it's in $100,000 million-dollar homes. We've had them in Homerama neighborhoods. It's literally everywhere. But if we have this scenario, I can't arrest the drug user, and I can't arrest the accomplice. So I don't think a lot of folks in public realize the challenges we're facing. Heroin has been decriminalized. If you go back to the 70s, 80s, early 90s, and you look at the crack cocaine epidemic, what did we do? Stiffer penalties. The 3-strikes rule came out of California. That was all related to the drug trade and the gang violence relating to the drug trade. Stiffer penalties, mandatory sentencing. The older guys in Reno who still are narcotics unit that have been around forever will tell you about the sentencing specs with crack. It's the polar opposite of what we saw with crack 25, 30 years ago. So for us to walk in and just start making arrests and hauling people off to jail and things of that nature, that's not happening. Even if we could, we can't arrest our way out of the problem. The Hamilton County Justice Center holds 1,500, 1,600 people. I think Major Ketterman's got 1,900, 2,000 down there on a daily basis. The Hamilton County Health Department is handing out Narcan, take one, leave one. You know, critics of that program are saying, well, that's just like a clean needle program, or that's just like handing out condoms to teenagers for, you're condoning or promoting the problem. So we get beat up on that end. I need the people of the township and the community to understand big picture. I need them to understand what we're facing with heroin. When somebody comes in on a Thursday night meeting and says, the sheriff's office isn't doing anything, it's not true. It's absolutely not true. So I'm sorry to take up all your time. Got off on a little bit of a tangent there.
Well, one of the things too that I can understand how the heroin task force works, because we found with the drug users we use that these people move around. So even if the police go up there and wipe that house out in High Point, you're going to find them in Deer Park, or you're going to find them in Rossmore. They got more than one contact, and they skip around all over the place. We found we've had different patients that bunk at one house for 2 or 3 overdoses, and then all of a sudden you find them somewhere else at another residence.
The most recent heroin overdose death with the young lady, which I think was the weekend of September 8th, if I'm not mistaken, within 3 days of that incident, one of the people directly involved in that incident was arrested. Now, I won't say for what, I won't tell you who, because that investigation was and is bearing fruit. That individual is sitting in the Hamilton County Justice Center right now. I cannot come into public meetings and discuss the details. And I know most of you gentlemen know that. I need other folks to understand it as well. So, not that I'm being guarded or difficult, it's just you can't divulge sensitive information pending criminal investigations. You can't do it.
Drug enforcement gets worse if issue 1 passes as well.
Now, is this also the same thing for crack and marijuana?
Different substances, different laws, different quantities. Heroin, and I'm going to tread
I would think heroin would be way up here.
It is.
So
It's a supply and demand kind of business. The demand is huge, the supply is there. It just depends on what we're dealing with.
Can't make arrest. Jeez. Both hands behind your backside.
We appreciate
Thank you.
the background information. It's very helpful for us to understand where law enforcement is and the challenges that they face on this. Please understand that this board will never pressure you to reveal any information that is intended to be kept confidential and that would hurt your attempts to do what you're doing.
I completely understand, and I just, High Point is a difficult area. It's a challenging area, because there are some great people there who we see and talk to frequently. There's a significant, part of the neighborhood there that they don't want us there, period. So, I've personally driven down the street in High Point, you see somebody out on a morning like today, and you wave and they're on the porch or out in the front yard, they won't even wave back at me. So, it's a challenge, and it's just a challenge, and, I'll leave it at that.
One other thing too, I made some phone calls, did some checking on the Hamilton County Heroin Coalition. This is not a law enforcement effort, it is more of an education, prevention, and treatment organization than it is a law enforcement. There's only one police officer on there, and that's Sheriff Newtown.
Chief Simon.
Yeah, he's on it. Other than that, it's mostly health department officials and people like that. I'm attending their meeting on Thursday, and I just want to get some more background information to find out if it makes any sense for us to become a partner organization to that Heroin Coalition. I'll report back to the board when I find out, but I'm gonna check that out. But again, this is not a law enforcement thing. This is more along the lines of education, prevention, and treatment for people who come forward and recognize it.
And I'm sorry, I should have made that distinction. The coalition and the coalition task force, they
Right.
kind of run parallel. The task force, that's made up of the, the law enforcement investigators, to which we have 3 people from our CIS assigned to that, a sergeant, 2 detectives.
Okay. Anything else?
Those are
Questions, comments? Parks and Recreation, Mike.
Yeah, everything is running along smoothly. If any of you were up around Shore last weekend, we really had a busy weekend up there with Landmark, Deer Park, Sycamore, and all kinds of people. I want to remind you, October the 18th, Lifeline screening will be at Schuler at the community room. There are flyers, I believe, out by the desk, and I think Beth also put the details and stuff on Facebook and on our website.
When is it?
October the 18th. The people at Lifeline have told me that when they're at Schuler, that's one of the most successful ones they have as far as attracting people. So it's a nice thing to have. Just want to give you a warning. We have the meeting, the park meeting Monday. Right now it's on, but I want to let you know, my older brother is having very serious surgery tomorrow.